I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's no magic subject line or AI prompt that will magically put meetings in your calendar. What actually keeps your calendar full and books you sales calls consistently is something that people refuse to do because it's boring and they don't want to implement it. It's a boring, repeatable, unsexy system, but it's the one that actually gets results. This is the same system we use at our agency to add over 25 million in pipeline for our clients and book over 1,000 sales calls. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that system looks like, exactly how to implement it for your own B2B companies, step by step, so you can actually book sales calls consistently with cold email. So, step one is defining your ICP. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see most people make is that they'll say, okay, B2B SaaS is our ICP. Now, that is not an ICP. That is not an ideal customer profile. That is a category. Okay. So you need to be specific when you're talking about your ICP and even build what I would call a golden ICP, who is the one kind of specific company that you want to work with. Now, what does that look like? Because if I just reframe this for a second and say to you, okay, we're talking about B2B SaaS company. There's two founders. One of them's bootstrapped and one of them's raised VC funding. Now, when you're speaking to both of those companies, they're going to have very different worldviews. One of them's going to be thinking about this from, I've bootstrapped this entire company and I want to make sure that every single penny I spend, I see a return on. And the other one's got investor money, so might be able to spend a little bit more money a little bit quicker. So the real ICP test is, can you name 50 companies that fit off the top of your head? Now, I would also refer to this as a Dream 50, Dream 100. These are the people where you shouldn't be doing cold outbound to. You should be handwriting letters, sending custom looms. These are the people who are going to be the biggest drivers in your business that you would use a slightly different approach for. But there's no reason you can't get them on cold email or cold outbound as well. So build it by looking at who's already paying you, pull your client list and find patterns. So if you were to pull all of the clients you're currently working with, you can easily do a simple CRM export and then find the lookalikes of those companies, or even just put them into Claude and say, okay, what are the similarities between these companies, enrich those. You will eventually find some patterns to say, okay, well, we work very well rather than B2B SaaS. If it's a MarTech company who's raised VC funding and has around 20 to 50 heads, there's one of our ICPs. It might be another edtech company or a health tech company where they're actually in a smaller band of 1 to 10 heads where we help them do their MVPs, this sort of thing. So this is the sort of level of detail you want to get into. And especially now with all of the AI that's available, it's very easy to do that. So do a pull of your CRM, put them all into Claude, and then find the similarities, and you'll soon find that maybe you have a couple of personas, but dialing in one initially is where you really want to get to. And then would you cold call this company right now? If yes, if not, no. Okay, so cut the ones out that you wouldn't, because if they're not going to be the great fit for you, and you want to start with the kind of narrow beats broad, right? 2,000 perfect fits versus 20,000 maybes. Now, this might sound a bit contradictory, but having that initial list where you can say, okay, these are the perfect fits allows you to get some initial data to say, okay, what's resonating with these companies ahead of expanding this into other verticals, right? So let's say that we're talking about, again, the 1 to 10 health tech company. Now, that's the ICP initially, but then if we say, well, this is the problem that health tech overall is facing, then we can expand that into 1 to 50, 1 to 100, or even from 1 to 10, but then across other tech, because it's, again, SaaS, they're facing similar issues with their MVP development, this sort of thing. So get that initial ICP defined. That's going to be the biggest lever that you can pull in terms of all of this, because one thing that you will notice very quickly is that if you're not targeting the right people, you're going to get no results. And then step number 2 is map your full market. Most B2B companies have anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000 potential customers and have contacted maybe 5%. Now, that number goes up drastically depending on what industry you're operating in. Are you expanding verticals? And that's why I said focus on the 2,000 key accounts first and define that ICP in different personas, and then you can expand that out. Now, you're only contacting 5% because you're only going after the people who are coming inbound, who are really easy to close, right? It's great for your sales reps. They love it because the people come in, they're already wanting your problem. They're already wanting your product or service. They already have the problem. They're coming to you proactively to say, hey, sell me this. And they go, we can sell you it. And then their close rate is 20, 30%, and it's great. Now, that's great for that 5% of the market that are looking for it right now. But what about the other 95% that you're not contacting? That's where real business growth is. If you are looking to exit your company, if you are looking to scale your company, then these are the sorts of things you need to be looking at, because any investor who's going to purchase a company is going to already think, okay, where is the leverage for this company in terms of their future growth planning? And if everything's coming inbound and you're reliant on ads, then you have no way of converting a cold audience. And only 3% of the market is ever ready to buy at one moment. And you don't know which 3% of that is, right? So a lot of people will focus on intent signals. So you might be a software development agency, and therefore you are looking at when someone starts hiring a developer role, that you think it's a great idea to reach out to that person, which is great. Again, funding round. If a startup raises funding, then you know they need development, etc. Those signals are real. They do show intent. However, you and every other person in the market with any pitch ever is also reaching out to that person, right? Funding rounds are the biggest source of, okay, this person now has budget. You want to be there before the funding round so that you can already have that conversation, already be ready to sign that off once the funding round starts, right? Because they're inundated with emails from thousands of people all selling all these different things. You are lost in a sea of noise, okay? And by going out to 100% of the market, you're not waiting for the 3% that are raising their hand saying, okay, now is the right time. You're going after everyone, and those people will raise their hands themselves. Okay, so the only way to catch those buyers is to reach everyone, not pick and choose. You go after everyone, and guess what? Some people have an issue before they post about it on LinkedIn. So therefore you get to that person, it's the right message to the right person at the right time through the full market coverage. So those people raise their hand and they speak to you before they've told anyone else about it. So you're not in that same sea of noise when they've had a sleepless night on a Tuesday because they're just coming to work on a Wednesday and the CEO said that you need to get this fixed this week. You're already there before they post about it on LinkedIn. Okay, so then tools. Now, Apollo plus SalesNav for lists, Clay to enrich those, and then score against the ICP. And you can use Million Verifier, Zero Bounce to validate. Now, in terms of Apollo, a lot of people use that. It can be quite outdated. SalesNav is the source of all data, just to give you a kind of bit of insight there. All of these data sources come from SalesNav. So if you're dealing with a small list, start there. If you want to scale things up cost effectively, use Apollo as well. If you're looking to do that more cost effectively, there's plenty of ways to get around that. Feel free to comment down below and I'm happy to let you know as well. There's other tools out there as well. If this is of interest, happy to have a conversation. And then either use Zero Bounce, Million Verifier. You need to validate your emails and get them so you're not going to the spam or you're not going to emails that are no longer being sent. So someone who's left the company, etc. And then segment this by authority level. So authority level, company size, geography, industry, not just job title, because different companies in different industries are facing different problems. Like if you were running a business that's related to environmental policies, all of those policies are going to be related to different clients in different industries and how those policies reflect them. Same as state by state in some of these examples. I was speaking to someone the other day about this. So specific industries. Let me give you an example. One of our clients is a hull cleaning provider. We booked them 5 calls in the first 3 days. Okay. We split their campaigns by the types of vessel they had. So was it a fleet? Was it a ro-ro? Was it another type of vessel? And that's what's caused the biggest results, because when you're talking to someone about a specific type of ship, they feel that you've already researched them. And that's what we're trying to get to without wasting our AI personalization with something that's not relevant. Okay. And then we move into step 3, which is build your infrastructure, right? So one of the things I see all the time when I speak to people on calls is they're using their primary domain to send cold emails. Never do that, please, because if then you're sending out proposals, invoices, any emails to any clients, they're all going to land in the spam and you're going to wonder why no one's paying you. You're going to wonder why no one's replying to you, right? It's a recipe for disaster. And then fixing that is an even bigger nightmare. So you always need a custom infrastructure that's outside of that. So that's dedicated sending domains that are disposable, other than your primary domain, where you're going to use that because that's where your website's hosted, right? So new domains and new inboxes need 2 to 3 weeks of warm up before any campaign goes live. So there are some methods that you can do that can get you through this a little bit earlier, but I would always recommend, if you want longevity and you want the best results, that you do a minimum of 14 days of warm up, and then you do a 2-to-1 warm up ratio of cold emails to warm up emails. And I'll come on to what that means in a second. Now, we check 27 things before any campaign goes live, whether or not that's DNS, DKIM, SPF, DMARC, warm up scores, inbox configs, whatever. Now, the simplest way for you to do this is go to scaledmail.com. They're a good company. They'll give you good infrastructure. It's not the most cost effective, but it is good quality. There's plenty of other examples out there if you want to use instantly as you're sending tool. They do done for you as well. Now, we do everything custom and in-house, which is slightly different, but that's because we're kind of experts in the field here. So you don't need that level of sophistication. Now, one misconfigured DNS record can kill a campaign before an email is even read. So if you're sending cold emails and no one's reading them because they're going to everyone's spam, then it's like shouting into an empty hallway. It's completely and utterly a waste of time. Okay. And then let's just come back to this 2-to-1 warm-up ratio. This is the golden rule. If you're going to send 20 emails from an inbox, then make sure you're doing 40 warm-up. Okay, so that 2-to-1 ratio basically means that, let's say that 10 of your cold emails get marked as spam, at least you've got another 40 on warm-up that will always be saved from spam, that will stop that from happening. Okay, so if you're running Microsoft, you only want to do max 5 emails per inbox. If you're doing Google, you can probably push it up to 20, 30, 40. There's people testing different things with this, but that's a general rule. Now, when you write the emails, this is a big thing that I see people spending a lot of time on. Okay, so, okay, how do I say this? How do I do this? How do I position the offer in this way? And, oh, should it be at 80 words, 100 words, 120 words? Forget that. Just keep it short because it avoids spam filters. So under 80 words, max 100. But also try testing and writing it in your own voice. Your customers and potential prospects are used to or want to hear like a storytelling from someone like you. So always test your own version. And we do that with clients where we'll get them to write their own version of an email and then we'll test that as well. Now, 90% of the time, the win is under 80 words. Line 1 is their problem, not your product, not your company, not your results. So it's a poke the bear question, which is one of the templates that we'll tend to use, something that points out something that's wrong with them. So let's say they're scaling, they're hiring SDRs, and then they've seen that they've hired another 4 SDRs and just fired another 3. SDR ramp up's the pain point there. We say something to poke that pain, that therefore prompts a response. Now, in lines 2 and 3, you want some proof because that's what's going to build the authority for them to reply to you. And that's a case study or a result that you've got for someone, but make sure it's outcome focused and not war and peace of 20 lines around what you did for this client. Just, we helped this client get this result, and then CTA. Do you want to do the same? It's really that simple. Is this on your radar at the moment? That's fine. Worth a quick chat? That's fine. The biggest lever here is your offer. Okay, so rather than spending time messing around with subject lines, trying to think of the best one to get the most clicks, yes, it does matter, but it's not the 80-20 of what you should actually focus on. If you can make a no-brainer offer, that's what's going to get results. If you stick a guarantee in your email because you're confident in your service, that will also get more results. But be careful when you offer guarantees, you attract a certain type of client. Okay, so nobody reads company background, team size, or years in business in a cold email. They don't care. They just want, what's in it for me? Is this a no-brainer and why I should sign up? And then subject lines, our biggest one is quick question, first name. Just have something in there where it's the first name because it feels like it was written for them. That's the biggest lever you can pull here. Now, most people I speak to, again, will send 5, 6, 7 emails and keep following up and following up and following up until they get a response. And all that does is annoy people, okay? If I get an email from someone and they send me 5, 6, 7, 8 emails and I haven't replied to the first one, it's just reminding me of why I didn't reply. And I'm going to report them as spam because it's annoying. And that's how most people think. So 58% of positive replies come from email 1 and another 22% from email 2. So that's 80% of your positive replies coming from the first 2 emails. So why would you therefore send any more than that when you could then not annoy that person and go back out to them in 45 days? They're not going to remember you sending 2 emails, but if you send 8, that leaves a sour taste in their mouth and they're a bit pissed off because you keep annoying them. Okay. Now, emails 3 to 10 generate almost nothing and just actively damage deliverability because, yes, you may continue going to the inbox, but you're more likely to get reported as spam, which is going to harm you in the long run. Now, let's just think about this, right? Let's say your TAM's 50,000 people. Your sending capacity is 100,000 emails a month, and you send a 10 email sequence. You're going to attract 10,000 people out of your 50,000 TAM, 20% coverage. Or if you hit 2 emails, you're going to hit all 50K in a month's time. Okay. Now, this is going to capture 3% of the 50K. This is going to capture 3% of 10K. Which of those is a better result? You're getting 80% of your positive replies from here anyway. So we never run anything more than a 3-step sequence for any client, and we wait 3 to 4 days in between email 1 and 2, and then we move on. All about this wait, and everyone talks about it. Should it be 3, 4, 5 days? It doesn't really matter. You're only really just trying to get them again, maybe if they were out of office or didn't read it in the first place. Now, the 45-day cycle, new angle. Okay, so once you've hit your full market, 1, you're going to have a load of data to tell you what got the most positive replies and what was working in that market by job title, by company size. This data is gold. This is all part of your go-to-market strategy and can really help guide your marketing to get better results. So you're going to come back to that market in 45 days with a new angle because timing may have changed, budget may have changed, and you've also found winners that are therefore going to increase your results over time because you can clearly say, this is what's worked. Okay, let's do that and create 3 new angles of that winner. Now, 30 days is probably a bit too aggressive because people will start to remember who you are if you're in there every 30 days. And then you start to get spam complaints and everything else. 60 days is probably too slow because you're going to miss buying windows. And then 45 is the nice in between that we always stick to. So the person who ignored you in January may be desperate in March because they've just got new budget, because the CEO is breathing down their neck. We're not here to know when that person's under pressure, but we are here to hit them regularly to make the odds in our favor. So every cycle, you should be getting that data, what industry replied, what job titles, what company sizes, and you can refine your ICP and what angles you're using so you get sharper each round and the system compounds. Now, here's a real result. Lawtech, 20 calls in the first 45 days, 250K in pipeline. One of our existing clients, we consistently book him 10 to 15 calls every single month. He's not even looking for 20, 30, 40 calls a month. He's looking for 5 to 10 good quality calls, right? We over deliver for him every single month and he's more than happy. Now, responding under 23 minutes. This is a subject that I think is very important for people. So 31% of cold email replies never became meetings. And the number one reason for that is a slow response. So I even think 23 minutes should be quicker, but this is just to benchmark you to give you an idea. So the average B2B response time is 4.2 hours. Okay, so teams converting at 80% plus at under 23 minutes. We try and get there under 5. Okay. We'll also try and give that person a call if they haven't responded in 24 hours. Or if we haven't responded to them as quickly as possible. If you can pick up the phone and ring a person as they've replied to an email and say, hey, you just replied to my email. Have you got 2 minutes for us to talk about it? Or hey, would it be worth us? Think about this. You receive 100 emails every day. You've taken time out of your day to respond to one and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm interested in this. Now, that's only going to last for a couple of minutes while they're clearing down their inbox. So if you can ring that person, actually speak to them while the intent is high, you're going to increase your booking rate from 20 to 30 to 50, 60, 70%. Our booking rates on average around 40 to 50% because of our internal processes around this. So if there's no answer, we always suggest times. You never let a prospect book a call on a link. They will not do it. You suggest times, and then if they haven't replied after 2 responses, send the link as well so they can book it themselves. Now, our 91% show rate comes from this. The reply to book call process is where it's won or lost. And we also have a solid pre-call flow where we're converting a cold audience into warm prospects who know and trust who we are before they even join that call. Now, qualify before the call. So not every reply is a qualified meeting. 3 questions need to be asked before anyone gets booked. Are they an ICP? Are they a decision maker? And do they have a problem? Now, this should be done in your targeting, but people will slip through. When you're doing things at scale and sending 100,000 emails or 1 million emails a month, there is a 2-5% flow that's going to basically mean that not everyone's qualified. So when you are booking a call, yes, it's great to reply quickly, but you need to just make sure, okay, is this the CEO that I'm trying to speak to, or is this an admin who's accidentally slipped through, who's a waste of time if we book them on the call? Because what is worse than booking sales calls and them not showing up is having a sales call and taking time out of your day to speak to someone who is not qualified and is a time waster. So a book call with someone who can't buy is worse than no call. It wastes your close rate data, but it's also just a waste of time, if I'm being honest with you. And every reply gets reviewed by a human operator before it comes a calendar invite, because book calls don't mean progress. Qualified booked calls do. Okay. So there you have it, the exact cold email system we run for our clients to make sure their pipeline never dries up. Now look, I know there's a lot to build and operate on your own. The infrastructure, the data, the copy, managing replies, qualifying prospects. It's essentially a full-time job. And that's exactly why I run my agency, Leads That Show. So we are a done-for-you cold outbound agency that books meetings for B2B companies without them having to do the work of cold emails, LinkedIn, or cold calling themselves. We handle everything. We build the full system, we run it daily, we handle every reply with a human operator and book qualified meetings directly in your calendar without you having to hire a single SDR. You just show up, close the deal, move on. If that sounds like something worth exploring, click the first link in the description and book a discovery call with me. It's a straightforward conversation, there's no commitment, and even if it's not a right fit, I'll tell you what I would do in your specific situation. Click the link in the description, book a call, and I'll see you there.